Big news. Republican Senator Ted Cruz out of Texas. You know his name. Well, now you know what you know. He's the first man in running for president. Question is, how's he going to stack up against the other potential candidates on that side? Shall we discuss?
Let's do that.
Want to do it?
Yeah,
March Madness style.
Let's bring in our guests here to help us, our Republican strategist, Anna Navarro, and Democratic strategist, Richard Socarides. Great to see both of you.
We're excited. The race is beginning.
This is it.
With
an
an excellent candidate. All Democrats want everybody on the Republican side to be for Ted Cruz, so he gets the nomination, so Hillary can run against Ted Cruz.
I'm sensing sarcasm. Anna, how do you feel about Ted being the first one, Ted Cruz being the first one in, and about the timing of this?
I think it's very smart of him. And frankly, I think part of it might be a little bit of trolling with Rand Paul. You know, Rand Paul, who is also expected to announce, has said that he is going to announce April 7th and that he was letting the date be out there so that other people wouldn't announce on the same date. And I think Ted Cruz became the first. He's dominated the media cycle since yesterday, and he has got us all watching. And I think he's going to be the guy that gets the engine started and, you know, people lining up at the gate. So it's a fun time.
Now, Anna,
for political junkies.
Anna's one of the, now that's the key for political junkies, because sometimes people will say, oh, here comes a little bit of the hypocrisy of politics, that this is too early. And you know what they could point to? Ted Cruz is the first one in. But he is not doing well in the polls, Mr. Socarides, which is why you want him to run against Hillary Clinton if she is your nominee. He's at like 4% in most polls. He's behind Dr. Ben Carson, okay, who we had here on New Day, and obviously the two big governors who may enter the race, Jeb Bush and Scott Walker out of Wisconsin.
But, you know, he's a very smart guy. Princeton University, Harvard Law School, top of his class, so he shouldn't be underestimated. But he is at the extreme right of this field, for sure. He's kind of, you know, from the obstructionist wing of the Republican Party, who says he believes that he'd rather, you know, shut down the government than compromise. So it's hard to believe that he will get a lot of mainstream traction, but there is a faction, a big faction within the Republican Party who he, I think, will appeal to.
Anna, let's look at Ted Cruz March Madness style, okay? We're bracket crazy. We've set up a bracket.
Oh, God, Allison, just because you're number one on the bracket, don't torture me with talking about sports.
Sadly, I have been knocked down to number 3. Okay, so let's do a head-to-head matchup, as you mentioned, with Senator Rand Paul. What are the big distinctions between these two, Anna?
And who wins?
Libertarian versus social conservative. I give it to Rand Paul because I think he takes the libertarian space all by himself, whereas the social conservative space is going to have a lot of competition. Well, Ben Carson, who you just mentioned, maybe Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum. There's going to be a lot of social conservatives fighting for that vote.
Don't jump on Anna's bracket. I'll give you your own.
Okay.
Marco Rubio, big down in Florida.
Let me tell you this.
She's jumping on.
She loves Marco.
Marco Rubio. What'd you say, Anna?
I said, for me, bracketing is a verb, is what you do in politics. You bracket an announcement on the one side and the other.
All right, I like that. That's a fair point. So what do you think, Socarides? You got Senator Ted Cruz against Marco Rubio, both young guns, both have been pushing the obstinance of this current administration. What do you think? Who wins this matchup?
Well, Marco Rubio is a very attractive candidate for the Republicans. I think he would get a lot more traction if Jeb Bush were not in the race. I mean, I would think he would say to you that I am very conservative, but I'm not an obstructionist like Ted Cruz. I can work with other people. Marco Rubio is very much in the Jeb Bush kind of style of politics. It's hard to imagine that there's room for both of them in this race. So the big challenge for Rubio is going to be Bush, not Cruz.
Okay, let's look at our...
You got to grab him by the nose.
Oh, by the nose. You're so right. I like that. Okay, Anna, let's talk about Senator Ted Cruz versus Governor Scott Walker. What do you think?
Well, I think you've got a first-term rookie senator, and that's going to be a challenge for Rand Paul, for Marco Rubio, and for Ted Cruz, because they're going to be fighting the shadow of President Obama, who came into power from being a first-term rookie. For Senator Cruz, it's easier because he's got no skin in the game, in the sense that both Senator Paul and Senator Rubio are up for re-election in 2016. Senator Cruz is not. I'm beginning to think Mitch McConnell's going to have to show up in Iowa or New Hampshire to get a quorum in the Senate. But versus, so, you know, Scott Walker is a governor with executive experience, but little foreign policy know-how, it seems. Ted Cruz has been in the Senate. He has been exposed to foreign policy. He doesn't have the executive experience.
Okay.
And I will say this,
I take his
Ted
nose.
Cruz, with whom I don't really agree on a lot of things, has stayed consistent on his positions. Scott Walker is facing questions about whether he's changing positions now that he's running for president.
All right, now this big one, and we're going to have to both of you weigh in on this one because Anna obviously knows Jeb Bush very well. And so here it is. Senator Ted Cruz against former Governor Jeb Bush. Now, Socarides, one of the interesting things about this coming into it is that Ted Cruz would say that Jeb Bush is everything that's wrong with the Republican Party. This is probably the most polar opposite situation. What are the merits?
Well, I think on the merits, Jeb Bush has an experience as an executive in a state. I mean, I'm not making the case for him. I think he would say that I am very conservative, like Ted Cruz, but I'm not an obstructionist. I can work with others. That will be his appeal. He'll appeal to the more center-right Republicans. Obviously, he's got a big financial advantage. He's got the name. This will be a very interesting race, though. I mean, you see here taking shape the battle for the future of the Republican Party.
Anna, your thoughts?
Well, for starters, Jeb Bush speaks Spanish. Ted Cruz doesn't.
Oh, that's a low blow, Anna. That's a low blow.
Let's see. By the way, his name is Rafael Cruz, which he is going to be the first Cuban American, I think, to ever announce for president. His father, he is of Cuban descent. His father was a Cuban who exiled from Cuba before Fidel Castro came out. Look, Jeb Bush probably has more appeal in a. You could probably argue that Jeb Bush is more electable in a general election. Ted Cruz has a lot of appeal with the Republican base, which is one of the things that's a problem for Jeb Bush. So they appeal to dramatically different audiences.
Got it. All right, Anna, Richard, thank you.
Thank you.
Fun to do the brackets with you. Michaela.
I like the way you did that.